Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at the common link between solving problems that are 100% within our control, conquering nations, and controlling the masses. Now, why is this so important? It's important because if we can solve our problems, the nations cannot be conquered and the masses cannot be controlled. And what's the common link? It has to do with satisfying our needs. I say this all the time, there's only one thing we have to do, and that is to satisfy two groups of needs. That's how we solve problems that are within our control, because they're based on our lifestyle choices, the things we do. We have 100% control over the things we're eating and drinking, and the amount of exercise we get to a degree, and the sleep and everything else. These are within our control. And then how do you conquer nations? Well, if you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, written over 2,000 years ago, everyone in the military knows exactly what to do to conquer a nation. You don't let them satisfy their needs. You see, to solve problems, you satisfy our needs. To conquer a nation, you don't let them satisfy their needs. That's the easiest way to conquer people. You don't have to shoot them or bomb them or stab them. Starve them. Poison their water, cut off their water supply. Poison their food, destroy their food. Poison the air if you can. We can do that now, can't we? What's the one thing we do mostly now? We enact embargoes. That is the first act of war. When we enact an embargo, that is an act of war because we're trying to starve people out. I'm not proud to say I'm from America. In fact, I'm not even proud to say I'm from this planet, to be honest with you. But America enacted, we got the ball rolling to enact an embargo against Iraq. In 10 years, 1 million people were starved to death, mostly women and children. We enacted an embargo against Japan and Germany last century. That's the first act of war, is when you try to starve people out. And why does history keep repeating itself? Because we don't have access to it. History is written by the victors. We're not told what really happened in those wars. And it's important to understand because these two countries were flourishing at a time when the rest of us were starving. Starving, you get it? Starving. This is by design. This is how the sick people who rule the world think and operate. That's how you conquer a nation. It's also how you control the masses. You don't let them satisfy their needs, and that can be done on many levels. You can outright starve them, overtly just starve them, withhold their food, don't allow them to grow their own food. You can poison their food, you can poison their water, put fluoride in their water, spray chemicals in the air. They've admitted to doing that. This isn't a conspiracy. Yeah, we do it to protect you from the ozone. Carbon taxes. Remember, the power to tax is the power to control, the power to destroy. The Hegelian problem, reaction, solution: create a global problem, offer a global solution. Tax everybody, they all got to breathe out air. Now all of us can be taxed. Control the masses. How do you control the masses? You don't let them satisfy their needs. So it can be done overtly. It can be done very subtly, which is what's being done, let's say, in most places right now. If you own all the money, which is what's happening, there's a small group that print the money and they have us debt slaves and they only control every major sector of human endeavor. When you do that, when you have that much control, you can control what our so-called experts learn. You can misdirect them so they'll never find a solution. And then what's going to happen? We can't satisfy our needs. So there's another way to make sure people don't satisfy their needs. Take everybody in the field of health, medicine and nutrition, and misdirect them. Get those two areas not to study the elimination part of the food cycle and the body process. Remember, to rule the world, you got to make sure the experts don't know the truth. So when you get a degree in nutrition, you don't study the third cycle of food. There's consumption, absorption, elimination. They intentionally don't teach our so-called experts the elimination cycle because then they'd know that certain foods were not edible because of the bowel transit time. And then when you look at the medicine, what they teach our so-called medical doctors, our so-called experts, there's our body's nothing but a bunch of cells and two fluids. Blood is the kitchen, lymph is the bathroom. They don't teach the bathroom to the doctors. They don't know the bathroom's backing up. That's the disease process. So it's really easy to control the masses, misdirect the so-called experts. They won't know anything, and then most people won't ever find the truth. But we're waking up to the truth. We know what nutritionists aren't taught. We know what doctors aren't taught. It's not complicated. You got to understand the elimination cycle of food and the bathroom in our body, the lymph system, where all of our cells dump their waste. And it backs up and backs it up into us, and that's basically the disease process. So it's not complicated. Solving our problems is simple. Satisfy these two groups of needs. When you quit making 5 main mistakes relative to our food, you'll correct the fall of mankind, which is the first big mistake. And we don't make that mistake, you're not going to make the second and third and the fourth and the fifth. You got to go back to the first cause. And that's what put everything in motion. That's why we have the hell we live in now. We have to understand where we are, how we got here, where we need to go, and how to get back. And that's the purpose of a special teaching tool I created. Go down below in the description box and look for the ultimate schematic. And that's a tool I created that shows us where we are. We're in hell right now, where we start our journey off in life with false knowledge and we make mistakes and we have problems. This is hell. This is the dark ages. We've been down in the dark ages for too long. We shouldn't be conquering nations. We shouldn't be controlling the masses. And all we have to do is satisfy 2 groups of needs so we won't have any personal problems and be out of control, and then have governments control us and have the wrong mentality where we have an exchange mentality where we even have money. We shouldn't be having any of this. This world's a nightmare. But it could change in a flash if we could see the common link between these problems. And if we could just solve our problems. No more war, no more crime, no more violence, or at least the war and crime, or the crime and violence, that will be reduced to a drastic number. And I'm sure we'll still probably have that as a residual effect from the fall of mankind to remind us of our mistakes. And hopefully that will keep us on target and on track, go in the right direction for a change. So where are we? We're in this negative horizontal loop where we, because of traditions, because of our parents teaching us their mistakes, false knowledge, eating cooked food, eating animals, eating plants we're not biologically adapted to eat, eating processed foods, eating genetically modified food, eating food grown on artificial fertilizers and sprayed with pesticides and then preservatives and all the other stuff. And then we end up with all these problems. And then it's the problem itself that keeps us where we are. The worst negative effect from making these mistakes is we have a dark side to our behavior. That's what the fall of mankind did, and that's what sets up everything else. The dark side of our behavior is the number one source for false knowledge. It's the main reason why we are on this negative horizontal loop. And what we got to do is make a vertical move, a transformative move, find the knowledge we're missing. Whoops, I got to reverse this again. Got to make a vertical move, go upstream, make a vertical move, find the knowledge we were missing up in the plus A box of knowledge. That's knowledge of how to live. And we also now have another group of needs, so we also have knowledge of how to adapt. This is a big piece of the puzzle a lot of people don't have. There are certain people out there who really understand the knowledge of how to live, and they taught a lot of people, and that's all they know, and they've got, and they just are parrots and repeating the same garbage that was taught by some of these people that had flaws in their thinking. They didn't know they could screw up the law of cause and effect one more way, not realizing what comes after the effect. And that's the ripple effect. That's where we got to deal with the damage. That's why there's these 2 groups of needs. Wonder what the sun is doing to the image here. I'm not sure if I can see I'm trying to turn so that the sun's more in my face instead of on the shadow. What does that look like? Okay. But again, it's so simple. 2 groups of needs. One major group doesn't understand the knowledge of how to adapt. That's a big flaw. And there are a lot of ways to get to where we need to be. There's a lot of transition programs that can help us correct these 5 main mistakes. And we want to correct as many of them as we can, as fast as we can. And there's 2 main options. We can take the little bitty baby step approach and do a starch solution or a Rawltail 4 solution. It's a baby step approach. But it doesn't give you the quantum leap approach, the big results that we need to stay motivated. Now, a lot of people are going to do much better on a starch-based diet, and some won't if they're gluten intolerant and they don't back those things out. A lot of people are going to do better on a Rawltail 4 diet, which is really just a hallelujah diet with a few modifications. mostly bad modifications that there's no logic behind it actually, to force a certain amount of food. If I understand this correctly, I really shouldn't criticize something I haven't investigated that much. But if the article I read this morning was accurate, if anyone's promoting what that person said they are, it's foolish recommendations. You don't make blanket recommendations for everybody. Everyone's unique and different. But the point is, we got to correct these 5 mistakes. And now, what's our choices? Even Dean Ornish said, hey, we used to think the baby step approach is the way to go. But now we know better. If we take a quantum leap approach, what happens? We get quantum results. That's what gets us motivated. Go to other videos and look at the comment sections. Hopefully, every video I do, people are going to be updating what they're going through. Sometimes you got to go back and look at some other of my videos to look at what people are going through while they're on this solid food vacation. It's the quantum leap approach. It's the only way to get enough people's attention. That's all that matters. If we don't reach the tipping point, things will never change, and that's what we have to understand. So many people are short-sighted. You haven't thought this out enough. A starch solution isn't going to appeal to enough people. Vegetarian diets are not going to appeal to enough people. Even a raw vegan diet will not appeal to enough people, even though it's going to give people the kind of results they need to see. But again, most people aren't willing to do that. So that's why the first of my 3-step process addresses that willingness issue. It allows people to do something they've never done just on a temporary basis so they can see what they're missing, and they see results like 10 times faster. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it's an idea's time has come. Because it's something people are willing to do so we can get to the tipping point and put an end to this madness, and that's what it is. We shouldn't have war. We shouldn't have crime. We shouldn't have violence. We shouldn't have money. We shouldn't have government set up the way it is. We shouldn't have an educational system set up the way it is. We shouldn't have a media and a television and a brainwashing system that's bombarding our brains with so much bullshit. The average person can't wrap their brain around any of this. So the greatest thing about a solid food vacation is we can wake up the masses with this. Bill Bright had 14 million people doing this in 1 year. 1 year, 14 million. We can more than duplicate that. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Share, share, share. Thumbs up. Comment, comment. Do it. Share your experience, positive, negative. Oh my gosh, I can't believe some of the great comments. We're finally putting out to the world what I get to hear on a daily basis when I'm coaching people. This is so exciting. My God, I keep saying, if you guys could hear the comments I get, the conversations I have, well, guess what? You're getting to do it now. People are doing it. Man, this is an exciting time. It isn't Raw Till 4. It's a solid food vacation. That's what's going to wake people up. And then, once you do that, if you want to settle for Raw Till 4, go ahead. Not me. I want the best in life. I don't want any build my body out of crap. If that's the kind of person you are, then so be it. And I'm not judging. Hey, man, just do the best you can. I understand the spell. I understand what Plato meant. Whatever deceives men seems to produce a magical enchantment. I understand. God sends the food and the devil sends the cooks. We're under the hunger spell, my friends. We got to overcome that. Raw Till 4 will never overcome it because you're still feeding it. Only one way to control the things that are controlling us: stop feeding it. That's why the Bible mentions fasting 74 times. That's why all the religions do it. And that's why everyone who's ever done it is excited about it and wants everyone else to do it. Why? Because you're in for a treat.